We're here for a very special final edition of the Brian Ferentz Survivor Show on Kings of the North because Bill Landis, Iowa's nightmare is over. Doug Lesmerises, along with Bill Landis, Iowa officially has announced on Monday that Brian Ferentz will not return as Iowa's offensive coordinator next year. Iowa was going to have to score 4 million points for him to hit the threshold that had been established going into this year, which was score 25 points a game and Iowa wins 7 games. But what interim athletic director Beth Goetz did by announcing this way today, Landis, what she did was cancel this show. What she did was end all the jokes. What she did was put the program ahead of Kirk Ferentz's family. What she did was prioritize players, not highly paid coaches. And what she did was start to rebuild the reputation of Iowa football and Iowa sports that Kirk Ferentz and Brian Ferentz and former AD Gary Barta had trampled with their absolute abdication of duty the past several years. Beth, he's not out tomorrow, and he was on track to be out anyway, but she stopped the jokes. A 6-2 college football program shouldn't be a joke. Kirk Ferentz made it a joke. Brian Ferentz made it a joke. Former AD Gary Barta made it a joke. They set this up. And Beth Goetz said, no more. Finally, somebody in Iowa with the guts to stand up to Kirk Ferentz and put the fans and the players first. For shame, everybody else at Iowa who didn't do this. Congratulations to Beth Goetz.
So it had to happen, right? It had to happen.
This did not have to happen
why now?
Today.
Why now? Why do you think now?
Because of this show, because of all the jokes, because they had a week, they had a bye week, and she had a chance, I would imagine. Now, she just released a statement. They're a joke. They control their destiny to make the Big Ten title game, and they're a laughing stock. So the performance is awful, right? The offense is terrible. But I think it's the structure that Gary Barta created before he boogied to say, I don't want to make a decision. Let's put it in the contract and see if he can make it. And then the contract will make the decision. And she stepped up and said, no, a person's going to make this decision. So it's over, right? Like we don't have to have a chart. We don't have to have a countdown. She just let everybody know what's what. And I think the off week maybe gave her a chance to reset and reappraise. She got thrown into this. This isn't her mess, but she's cleaning it up. I think this is much better than everybody doing a countdown to the obvious.
Sure.
Don't you think this is better?
Yeah, but it would have been better on June 1st when she got the job.
She was not in that position. She's an interim AD. Gary Barta is an absolute failure as an athletic director. He's a stain on Iowa sports. The list of scandals at Iowa is as long as your arm. The Rabdo thing, the racial bias thing. He had a thing where he was firing women coaches and hiring male coaches, and people asked him about that. He abdicated his job. They should go back. They should go into his bank account like they're the FBI and pull all the money out because he did nothing as the Iowa athletic director, especially the last several years when he's supposed to be in charge of Brian Ferentz. She could not come in on August 1st when she took over. She's not even the full-time athletic director. She's the interim. She couldn't clean up his mess that quick. She did it today, though. I just think this is the earliest she could have done it. I think that she did it at all. I think puts her in great regard in my mind.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't want to turn this into a why didn't Beth Goetz do more conversation. It's just the timing is odd, but whatever. I guess it had to be done, right? So I'm glad it's happening now. It's just a little weird to me. It's like they still have 4 games left. And he's still going to be calling the plays for those 4 games. Yes. So it's in my mind, it has eliminated this joke, but still left them kind of a joke, which I guess was inevitable given where this all started. But like, I just think it makes it like a different kind of joke now. Like you've announced with 4 games left in your season that your nepotism offensive coordinator is not going to be there next year, but he's still going to get to do the job the rest of this year.
Yeah, I mean, again, the statement says like after consultation with Kirk and Brian Ferentz, like this is the Ferentz. I don't want to say the Ferentz crime family because that's not fair. This is the Ferentz football family. This is like you're mess with the Ferentzes. I don't know that but I think this is worth it. Do you think this is worth it? Or because people said like, what's the point of announcing it? The contract was already going to do it. My whole point the whole time has been we're not an algorithm. We're not in a world where if head coach does not achieve a 7.63 winning percentage, he will be. You make decisions as humans. Otherwise, you don't even need to be. You don't need an AD.
Yeah.
So I think this is substantially better. Yes or no?
I think it's better. Yeah, okay. I think it's better. Yeah, because you're in a weird way, like you're taking the power back, right? Like you're taking it. Yeah, yeah. So I think that's right. Yeah.
It's an AD, not AI.
Right.
Brian Ferentz did not achieve the stated goal. He is fired. No, it's a human saying you're done. So how did we get here? So this leaked on Monday, a couple hours ago. So doing research, went back to 2017. Greg Davis was the Iowa offensive coordinator. Greg Davis, who was the offensive coordinator at Texas with Vince Young when they won the national title. Greg Davis, who had been a head coach in college football. They replaced that guy with Brian Ferentz, who was 34 years old at the time. And I'll tell you, I was reading all the Iowa writers at the time. Greg Davis quits right after their bowl game. And everybody's like, yeah, I think it's going to be Brian Ferentz. He's 34, but yeah, now it feels like it's going to be Brian Ferentz. So, like, I don't know, man. This is from blackheartgoldpants.com. Does a good job covering Iowa football. They had 5 options after Greg Davis retired. Brian Ferentz was number 1. They ended the write-up with this. However, if the offense continues to slip, it'd be hard for Kirk to show his kid the door. That would create a pretty big mess. You think? Maybe you shouldn't have hired a 34-year-old guy who'd never been an offensive coordinator before. Maybe they shouldn't have hired a 29-year-old as the offensive line coach in 2012. When his dad said, you can't say no to your dad. That's how he hired him. You can't say no to your dad. So, like, they did not like what Greg Davis was doing when he left as Iowa offensive coordinator. They had not liked what Ken O'Keefe was doing as offensive coordinator before when he left and then Greg Davis took over. So, but people were not against this when it happened, and that is a front door failure. So I hope everybody in Iowa learned their lesson. I hope everybody in college football learned their lesson. A 34-year-old son of the coach who had never been a coordinator at any level should never have been given this job. And that people didn't see it in the moment is a failure then, and then it became more of a failure every year after.
We needed you there. Where were you when the world needed you the most? Were you at Disney World?
I was firing Tim Beck. That was after
you were too busy. You were too busy firing coordinators.
No, I was doing my job.
Yeah.
I was getting rid of the incompetent coordinator at Ohio State and asking Tim Beck in the locker room after they got shut out in the Fiesta Bowl how he thinks he could possibly keep his job. And he was basically like, yeah, I'm probably not going to. I was like, yeah, I did my job. I cleaned up my mess. What are you doing, Iowa? Now I got to clean up yours too. And then Urban didn't hire anybody related to him.
No, he hired a guy who's the head coach now.
No, I know he hired Ryan Day. Yeah, Ryan Day was out there. Kirk Ferentz could have hired him instead of Brian Ferentz. So that's how that happened, right? And so I just will say, going by the FEI, right? It's a better view than just yards and stats because they do play complementary football. They're not trying to lead the nation in points per game or yards per game. So you have to acknowledge that. This is their ranking in that. Offensively, starting in 2017, 44th, not bad. 43rd, 54th, 64th in 2020, 92nd in 2021 when the wheels start coming off. 102 last year, which in the middle of that season, I say that he should be fired. And now 121 right now as he is fired. We, by the way, are a year and 8 days removed from my headline of Kirk Ferentz is failing Iowa fans and his son, Brian Ferentz, should be fired. It would have been nice if it was the year anniversary. What?
Mm-hmm.
Year and 8 days. If that's what we want to criticize Beth Goetz for, just make it on the year anniversary. Could have had a party.
Yeah. No reference for history.
No. So like previously, like they had been like in 2015, like again, people were tired of Greg Davis. In 2015, Iowa's offense was ranked 39th. people were kind of tired of Ken O'Keefe at the end. In 2011, their offense was 28th. Their defense was 53rd. Their offense was better than their defense. In 2010, their offense was 24th. So they weren't always like this, right? In a world where right now in the FEI index, Iowa's defense is second. And their so that's my ringtone because I was taking a nap. I was like, I got to gear up for this Brian Ferentz thing that's going to happen.
Yeah.
And then it happened before my nap was officially done. So they're second 121st right now. They don't have to be that way. They've been ranked in the top 10 in defense the last 6 years, but they don't have to be like this. I think there's a little bit like, I think Kirk Ferentz would like want you to think, well, we're designed to be second in defense, 121st in offense. They don't have to be like this. And if they were 40th again in offense, they might be a national title contender.
Yeah, they absolutely would be. They'd be like what Ohio State is right now. Yeah,
that's the thing. Like the potential that is there if they just had competence. So, they blew it from the get-go. Iowa has nepotism laws, and when they hired Brian Ferentz in 2012 as a 29-year-old offensive line coach, they skirted the nepotism laws to allow that to happen. So they set themselves up for this. They had structures in place, and then they made a loophole to get around it. It's just so bad. Gary Barta failed. Fail. Fans were failed by this. If you treated fans like voters, that you got to earn their vote, or stockholders, or like shareholders, like they're not going to stand for this. You wouldn't allow this to happen. This is the kind of thing that it's so insulting to fans. And I hate when people call for fans to boycott, because you shouldn't have to stop going to your favorite thing to get your team to do the right thing. But I wish somebody in Iowa had thought about the fans long before today.
Yeah, especially it's not. I want to say this right. There are college football programs that are it's the whole Iowa football feels more in touch with its fan base than I think some other programs. I almost think of the fan base and the program as one and the same, and I don't always do that with every program. So it's especially damning in this case. I feel like if another program had done this, maybe I wouldn't view it quite the same. But yeah, the fans were let down in a very serious way, subjected to watching terrible football, and then lied to and tried to be convinced that it was okay to operate that way for too many years. Yeah,
everybody thinks the dad in Succession is so mean. But if this was Succession, it would have been like if the old guy to Kendall was like, "Come on, let's do it. Here, it's yours." And everybody been like, "What is he qualified? He just did a rap. Is he qualified to do this?" But in football, it's just like, no, go ahead. It's fine. Do you think ADs or boards of trustees or university presidents will ever learn when it comes to this? Or when you get an old coach who's been around, do you just let him fill his staff with family and friends, and that's the price of doing business?
I don't, in this case, no, I don't know that ADs will ever figure out that they're the ones who were supposed to be in charge. An established AD with a younger coach probably might wield that influence a little more. But in this case, a guy like Kirk Ferentz, who's been there for so long, or Joe Paterno when he was at Penn State forever, those kind of people just get to do whatever they want, for better or worse. And I don't know that that'll ever change.
Do you think a fan base would revolt if Kirk Ferentz in 2017 had said, I want Brian to be the new, he doesn't call him Brian Ferentz. He just calls him Brian.
Brian, son.
I want my boy.
Skip.
My boy is going to be the, I don't think Kirk Ferentz has a Southern accent though. My boy is going to be the OC or I bolt. What if the AD said leave? And then it was Kirk Ferentz quit. It was why did Kirk Ferentz quit? And you said, because he wanted to make his 34-year-old unqualified son the offensive coordinator. And I said, no. So he said, it's either both of us or none of us. And I said, that's a ridiculous thing to say. If that's the case, you're done. Do you think fans would revolt?
Yeah.
You do. You think fans would be mad at the AD that they let Kirk Ferentz go, let the kid do it?
At the time, yeah. It's easy to say in hindsight, no, they wouldn't. But at the time, of course, yeah.
Then fans have to be smarter. then everybody has to be smarter. You have to stop this before it happens, because it's not really about results. It's about process. And it's about a process that does not even give you the opportunity to find the most qualified person for the job. In every other way, in major college football, with all the money they spend, they're constantly in recruiting, in staff hirings. They are constantly looking for the most qualified person. So you must demand that at every step. And if that is not a lesson learned, then shame on college football, shame on college sports, shame on everybody in charge of everything. You have to stop it at the beginning. Why would you allow anyone to hire anyone other than the most qualified person? So like you have to stop it at the front. So I hope they learn. To Joe Paterno's credit, Jay Paterno, who was an assistant coach at Penn State for like 2 decades, at least he was never the offensive coordinator. He was just the quarterback's coach. I looked it up.
Oh, yeah. Galen Hall was the offensive coordinator. Yeah.
This is like Pat Knight, though, right? Bobby Knight left Texas Tech in the middle of a year and gave it to Pat Knight. And Pat Knight went 50-61 in 3.5 years at Texas Tech. And then he went to a new job and he won 23 games in the first year. And then he went 3-28 and 3-22 and got fired and never coached again. So like, it's like that, right?
Yeah.
But like Indiana didn't have to suffer through that because Bob Knight put Texas Tech through that. It's not worth it. Like if I don't think it's worth it. There's another coach you can find. You can't live in fear. Too many programs live in fear. They live in absolute fear. Iowa thinks, and I'm sick of people saying it, Iowa thinks they're going to be Nebraska. Guess what? Nebraska has a good coach now. It's fine.
Yeah. Do you think, is this a precursor to the end of Kirk Ferentz?
Maybe. Yeah. And then it would be like, you announce that Brian's going to go and then Kirk can fall on the sword and go out with his kid. I think that's certainly possible. I mean, I think that would be like ridiculous. Like, you know, again, if like that's what you tie your career to. But like here's the thing. The issue is with Kirk Ferentz and the issue is with Gary Barta. Brian Ferentz is just an unqualified person who's bad at his job. Those people are everywhere. And like the idea of like, hey, why don't you? It's like, I don't go crazy like this because people make bad hires all the time. It's the intent of the hire. Did you know it was not the most qualified person when you made it? So I'm done. Okay. Now I'm done being mad at Kirk Ferentz now. I never said Kirk Ferentz should be fired. I said he should fire his kid because he doesn't get to just hire family members like it's a family business. Because that's the thing. When you have a family business, at least you created the business. It's like, I built this business from the ground up. I'm going to hire my kids. Well, at least it's your business. Guess what? Iowa football is not. It's not Kirk Ferentz's business. Yeah. He didn't build it. He took it over. He's a steward. And just like when you're the president of a company or you're voted in by the voters, it's not yours. You're a steward. And you don't get to treat it like a family business. So if now that's solved, then we can just go back to criticizing Kirk Ferentz for making bad coaching decisions like everybody else. But Gary Barta, huge, gigantic failure. Fail. Kirk Ferentz, fail. We should be celebrating. They're a penalty away from being 7-1. We should be celebrating the miracle of Iowa football. And instead, we're talking about this. It's amazing that team is 6-2.
It's incredible. Yeah.
It's unbelievable. Yeah. So with what Beth Goetz did, she's going to let us celebrate the good of Iowa football now because we know the absolute worst part of it is 100% taken care of. Because on the show we just did Monday morning, we were like, well, what if they back off the 25-point thing? Right? So she ended that. So now we can go back to normal.
No, that actually helps crystallize it for me because the story of the season should be about Iowa being 6-2 and like defying the odds, or 7-1, right? And defying the odds of like what they should be, but it's not because it's all clouded up by this. But yeah, if this is removed from that, then we can appreciate that more for what it is. They still have a great chance to win the West and go to Indianapolis and go to a really good bowl game, and we should be talking about that and not laughing about it. So this helps that.
So this is our last Brian Ferentz Survivor Show. Because he did not survive. Beth Goetz made certain of that. So on our Monday Kings of the North, we'll fill that spot. I guess like we're going to start doing the playoff stuff anyway. We'll just slide in our playoff bracket. in the Brian Ferentz Survivor Show because we don't have to worry about it anymore.
Yeah.
The joke is done.
Where would you rank the Brian Ferentz Survivor Show among shows that only lasted one season?
Way up there, probably up there with like Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip. Starred the late great Matthew Perry.
Yeah,
which
Freaks and Geeks, good one.
Show Freaks and Geeks, right?
Yeah.
We can make that list. Show with a lot of potential. We also maybe it could just be one of those where we just like the lead character left, so we just make it a different Survivor Show. Like who's the next? But it's only about nepotism. Again, it's not about bad coaching. It's about nepotism and bad coaching. Although I don't like nepotism even when it's good coaching because you're denying an opportunity to somebody who might be more qualified and could also do good coaching. So, yeah, it was a heck of a run, but maybe Netflix will pick up Brian Ferentz.
Yeah. 15 years from now, kids in college whose parents watch the Brian Ferentz Survivor Show will discover it on Netflix and talk about it with their friends and then realize, the guy from Pineapple Express was in that, huh? That's good. That's interesting.
So anyway, some people have said to me like, Doug, you won. I don't think of it as a victory. I just think I think of it as cramming it up Kirk Ferentz scramble. Is that a victory? It's not a victory. It's not about wins and losses. It's about what's right for Iowa football players and Iowa football fans, and what happened on Monday was right for all of them. All right. Goodbye to Brian Ferentz. Thanks to you guys for watching. Find us on Kings of the North every Monday on this feed where we talk about the best and most interesting things in Northern college football. If you're joining us for the first time, welcome. If you've been here before, good to see you. And we go once a week right now on Kings of the North, but eventually this is going to be a 5-day-a-week show. And maybe we'll have Brian. We're probably looking for like former players and coaches to come on and be experts. You think Brian be interested?
He should have time on his hands, so probably.
And you know why I'd be okay with that hire? Because I'm not related to him. All right, that'll do it for Bill Landis. I'm Doug Lesmerises, and that was the final Brian Ferentz Survivor Show on Kings of the North.